Just 5 days to go of the summer transfer window. However, the 20 Premier League clubs have already set a new spending record this summer. Between them, they've now spent over £2.6 billion. In fact, the transfer that took it over the £2.6 billion mark was when Eze joined Arsenal, which was at the end of last week, with well over a week left of the summer transfer window. So you'd imagine it's going to hit that £3 billion mark. But a record's been set already, and there's still more business expected to be done. With Newcastle looking to bring in at least one striker, Crystal Palace are way to spend money, Fulham are expected to spend some money, Chelsea are always spending money, Man United hoping to bring in a goalkeeper, Manchester City possibly bringing in Donnarumma, West Ham away to spend money. Lots of money still to be spent in the Premier League and to the Premier League. And that's without even considering if Alexander Isak eventually leaves Newcastle and goes to Liverpool this summer. But I don't want to discuss that today. Don't want to discuss Isak today. However, I do want to discuss Newcastle and strikers, or striker, in particular Strand Larsen, because I think this is the big headline and an interesting one, because I think it's a different approach from Newcastle, because all summer it's felt inevitable they'll get Wissa eventually, and it still does feel like that. I still think they'll get Wissa plus one other, and up until now it's been a case of who's it going to be. And there's been lots of names that's come and gone. Obviously, Ekitike was a big one that didn't get. Sesko's another one. But since Sesko, I've sort of been waiting for a substantial transfer rumour. Which one's likely to be joining Wissa? Now, apologies if I come across as a little bit ignorant, thinking that Wissa's just going to go to Newcastle. But I expect it to happen. I still expect it to happen. And Larsen popped up a couple of weeks ago, but it was just a link. However, since I've done my last Premier League transfer show, they bid for him twice. Now, they've had both bids rejected, but I think it's the structure of the bid that I find interesting, and it's different to the ones they made for Wissa. So the ones they made for Wissa was what is quite standard in football now, isn't it? Which is a basic fee guaranteed spread over multiple years, but potential add-ons, which can be difficult to achieve. 35 million plus 5 million of add-ons. None of that with Larsen. Straight up 50 million. Now that 50 million will still be structured and spread over multiple years, but there's no add-ons. It was guaranteed 50 million for Wolves, which they've rejected. They went back in pretty quickly with a second bid of 55 million. Now Wolves have rejected that as well. However, I always think when a club makes two bids, there must be encouragement somewhere from someone, whether it's the club, whether it's the player. Not usually it's his representatives, and I think it might be the latter in this instance. Now, we're getting told that Larsen respects Wolves, he's happy to stay at Wolves, but he's sort of open to exploring a move if Wolves allow him to do so. And I think when Pereira was asked about it, he sort of gave almost like the politician's answer, if you like, but it's also the honest answer, because it feels like he's sitting on the fence, he's not committing either way, but I actually think it's the right thing to say as a manager, which is, I want to keep him, I don't want to sell him, but every player has a price, because ultimately, that's the truth. Wolves fans are not stupid, football fans are not stupid. Well, some of us are, but a lot of football fans are not stupid. So if Pereira said he's not for sale at any price, would you really reject 150 million? No, you wouldn't. Now, no one's going to bid 150 million, but that's not his point. The point was, well, he didn't really make it, but if he did, it would have been not for sale. So we'd already agree and prove that he is for sale at a certain price. And that's basically what Pereira's saying. He's for sale, but you got to pay up. And it's going to cost a lot of money. They've rejected 55 million quickly without even hesitating. Guessing 65, 70 million is what it would take. Do I think he's worth that? No. But you are paying for inconvenience at this point. You're buying the player, let's just say he is worth 50 million. That 15, 20 million is compensation for the lack of convenience, the lack of time you're allowing Wolves to find a replacement. And I like him. I think he's a good Premier League striker. I think him and Wissa would be two good Premier League strikers for Newcastle. I think that would be two good strikers to have going into the new season. And Al-Sula's had his moment. I hope any Newcastle fan, I hope you were here over the summer. I am as much as a fan I can be of Osula, I've always thought this as a player there, I like him. This could be his season. Got his moment against Liverpool, took his moment. I'm assuming he's going to start your next game, and I'm hoping he does start the next game. He deserves that reward with Anthony Gordon suspended, and I hope he takes it. So you'd have 3 decent strikers. You'd have 2 really good Premier League strikers and one that could potentially become a good Premier League striker. That's a good collection of strikers to have. As for Wolves, if I had more confidence in the leadership of the club, I'd say they won't sell him at this stage of the season. But I'm not convinced. Part of me thinks they might cash in here. And trying to replace him this late on in the window is a very dangerous game to be playing. I would worry if I was a Wolves fan if Newcastle came back in again, because I think when they bid, even if it's the first time, I think they're getting some encouragement. Premier League clubs just don't bid on a whim these days. They do their research. They contact people through other people and just try and test the waters a little bit before you put together a bid. So to do the first one, there's been some legwork. And I think if you do the second bid, there's been encouragement from somewhere that says this deal's possible. And I'm assuming it's the agents of Larsen here. And if a third bid arrives, I think it's more than encouragement that Newcastle are getting. I think it's persuasion, almost saying, come on, bid a third one and things will happen soon. Yeah, maybe a bit nervous for Wolves fans at the minute. And it's not because you knocked West Ham out of the cup. I can promise you it's not a reflection on that whatsoever. And that's not even me being sarcastic. I promise you, not even being sarcastic here. I would just be a little bit iffy saying that. To get that much money you've got from Dortmund for Fabio Silva, 25 million euros. I wouldn't even pay 2.5 million. That guy is a stinky striker. I'm not a fan of him whatsoever. He's a bit like Yao Felix. How on earth he's going for that much money, I do not know. I just do not see it. Clearly, I'm not very good when it comes to Portuguese strikers, right? I obviously don't know my stuff. 25 million euros for him, blowing my head. Well done to whoever's got that deal over the line. Gives Wolves a bit of money though, so they can get spending in the rest of the window. Another team that's spending is Crystal Palace. Yeremy Pino from Villarreal. Heard of him. Here's my rule. Spanish football, French football. If I've heard of him, he must be decent, right? I know it doesn't work like that, but you get my point. I don't watch Spanish football. I've been reading a bit about him actually, because this feels substantial. This feels likely, and obviously it's big shoes to fill in regards to Ezin. By what I'm reading, and well, as I say, hearing, I'm not listening to anything. I've just read. Going by what I've read, he's not an Ezin type of player. If you guys know plenty about Pino, then please do let me know in the comments below, because I am intrigued to learn about players that I don't know, and I like reading what other fans think about the same subjects as I do. We all have different opinions. That's what makes football really good, when those involved in the discussion can handle an opposite side of opinion, of course. But that's something I'm going to encourage. But that's something I'm going to maintain here on Tartan Geo as well. So please do get involved in comments. Not just about Pino, just any transfer that you've seen in Premier. It doesn't even have to be one I'm discussing. Get involved in the comments below. Don't be shy. I want to build the community. I want it to be a place that we can enjoy discussing Premier League football. Sometimes other football, but mainly it will be Premier League football. So please do get involved. Sheffield United fans, you're going to have to wait till next season. Let me have that one. Things are crap for West Ham right now, okay? I need to have a laugh somewhere. I need something. You're just the victims today, I'm afraid. Right, Pino to Palace. That's all I've got to say, really. Apparently, he's not similar to Ez. He's a bit more similar to Sarr. But I don't know. He sounds fun. I like fun footballers. Hincapié to Arsenal. I mean, they're doing it again, Arsenal, aren't they? Spurs went in to buy Leverkusen to get Hincapié. It looked like he's likely to go to Spurs, and suddenly, very quickly, it was like, oh no, actually Arsenal want him, and he'd prefer to go to Arsenal. It's a bit of a reminder for Tottenham, who've had an excellent start to the season, but I think it's a bit of a reminder that you're still some way off Arsenal, that you've got a lot of making up to do to get back on level par with them, that teams see Arsenal as the bigger pool right now, and that's Very understandable. Give it a couple of years. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to predict that long into the future. But Spurs are certainly on the up. And Arsenal, well, to go on to improve, Arsenal have to win the league or the Champions League, which I don't think they'll do, and it's a very difficult task. But it will be a blow to Spurs to miss out on him. Now, I'm not sure Arsenal need him, to be honest with you. They've got Mosquera in there as well. And I'm a fan of Kiwior. I appreciate he might be leaving, but I'm a fan of him. I think it's more Arteta trying to ensure, I mean, possibly that Spurs don't get him, but you don't spend that much money to get one over on your rivals. So I don't think you do anyway. But I think it's more to ensure that Calafiori can stay as a left back and that Timber and White can stay as his right backs. Because obviously these players are all centre backs. But what he doesn't want to do is make sure that if he gets an injury to Gabriel or Saliba, he's having to take Calafiori out of left back and moving into the centre back. Now playing Miles Lewis-Skelly, trust me, no one's getting a violin out. I'm going to poor Mikel Arteta, he's having to play Lewis-Skelly. But you don't want to disrupt your first choice team. And at the minute, that first choice back four of Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori is up there with the best in the Premier League. So if you can get adequate depth so that there's a very, very good player behind each one. So you've got Lewis-Skelly, you've got Ben White, you've got Mosquera. And Kiwior at the minute, I think, is a good replacement. But I think that's who they're looking to upgrade. Get Hincapié in, Kiwior goes out the club. That defence, their second choice defence, is better than a lot of Premier League's first choice defences. That's a disgusting 8 defenders that Arsenal are going to have on their books for this season. Ridiculous talent. Hincapié, you can probably tell I'm a fan. Reiss Nelson, Arsenal to Crystal Palace, 15 million, which is a good fee. I like him. I think he is a good player, just plagued by injuries. A player that never really got his career up and running, I don't think. Whenever he's had a chance or he's got up and running, it feels like it disappears pretty quickly. I think it's a bit of a punt money, but I don't think you're punting on his ability. I think you're punting on his injury record, essentially. And if he stays fit, you've got a bargain on your hands. But if he doesn't stay fit, when he is fit, he's good. But ultimately, that's why he's only 15 million. I think Reiss Nelson, without the injury record, would be, well, add an extra 10 million on. Maybe I'm just overrating him too much. But I am a Reiss Nelson fan. I've always liked him. And I thought when he went to Fulham on loan, that would have been sort of maybe his chance to just have a season of consistency. Didn't quite work out. I moved to Palace. I think that's a really good move for him, actually. Palace are a good team, fantastic manager. They've got the Conference League, and I know it's not for everyone, and I know people will scoff at it, but Crystal Palace have won the FA Cup, their first major trophy. Winning the Conference League would be an incredible dream for them to come true. To win the FA Cup followed by the Conference League, and then they're in the Europa League the following season. What an incredible 3 years that would be. So if Nelson can go to Crystal Palace, help them win the Conference League, would be a wonderful season for them. I think this is a good move for Crystal Palace, but I think it's an even better move for Reiss Nelson. And last, I'm going to finish up with my team. Magassa is on his way to West Ham for £17 million. Not someone I'd ever heard of until we were linked to him. I'm a bit wary. Monaco fans seem to be quite happy that they're selling him. That always makes me a little bit unsure. However, it's not going to cloud my judgment or make me form an opinion of him. But going by what I can read in terms of his statistics and whatnot, he looks good out of possession. But in possession, he looks okay. However, our midfield is so bad, you do not need to be a top midfielder in order to get into it. We are not recruiting for an established Premier League midfielder where competition is fierce. This is not Newcastle. Newcastle go get a midfielder. It's going to have to be top quality to get in there. Ahead of Joelinton, Tonali and Bruno, you've got to be ridiculously good. That's not our midfield is championship quality collectively, in my opinion. I'm not even going to put West Ham in the thumbnail or title. You can't even accuse me of clickbaiting because there isn't anything to click on about West Ham. Our midfield at the minute is that bad. So we bring in someone that's not quite ready. I think that's good enough in terms of ability. I'm just a bit worried it's not good enough in terms of experience. He's not coming into a happy club. He's not coming into a club sitting 7th in the league. He's coming into a club that's bottom of the Premier League, having lost both league games so far, conceding 8 goals in 2 games, and then conceding 3 to Wolves' second string side in the Carabao Cup. This is a bad club to be joining, I think, when you're a young player that's going to require patience, because we can't afford to be patient. We're going to have to be his fans. We're going to have to be patient with him. But we as a football club, we can't afford to be patient because we need players to come in, hit the ground running now, make an impact now. Because if we wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months, 12 months for him to make an impact, it'll be too late. We'll be in the Championship. Anyway, that's it. I could go on about West Ham. I shall not. However, signing players usually is a good fun thing for your football club, isn't it? Gives you a bit of excitement, something to look forward to. And I enjoy signing players I've never heard of because I get to go on that voyage of discovery. I know it's a bit sad, but I like it. I like watching a player pull on the Clan and Blue for the first time, not really knowing exactly what to expect. Now, it doesn't always end good. I remember signing a goalkeeper and within a handful of games he punched into the back of his own net, called Roberto, right? Not good. But sometimes there can be some pleasant surprises. I'm just hoping that Magassa is one of those. Anyway, I'm off. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Premier League prediction show will be back. Looking forward to it. The prediction show, that is, not the Premier League returning. That can go away as far as I'm concerned. But the video itself, I enjoy recording it. But thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to Tartan Geo, please do subscribe. Drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. I'll see you in the comments. Don't be shy.